Hi there, and welcome to the Gnostic Rebellion. I'm your host, Paul Joseph Rovelli. Today, we're speaking with Melissa Rovelli, co-founder of the Gnostic Church of Light, along with yours truly. And we'll introduce her in a moment. But first, I'd like you to note that in the description, immediately below this video, is a donation link, especially right now we're in our donation drive. So would appreciate a quick donation to both support this program and our historic building and congregation. So while you do that, I'll just take a moment. We'll give a blessing for that donation. May wisdom and divine providence increase the unique genius of our congregation and bring us to health, wealth, and increase of days. Okay, also known as Source Hearings, under which pseudonym Melissa has written a series of books around her mystical insights. So, hi, sweetheart, would you introduce yourself and tell us about your writing career?
Okay, I'm your wife. I've been writing for a long time. Even when I was a kid, I loved stapling papers together and just writing little stories. I write fiction and nonfiction. I'm better known for my nonfiction. Fiction doesn't get much traction, but I still enjoy it. I love writing sci-fi, thrillers, a bit of
You know,
everything.
you're very prolific in your writing. You write a lot of stuff. You're always putting out a new book. Uh, and I think just for starters, it would be interesting to know about the path connected to your writing career. You know, how have you developed over time? What did you start with? How did it progress? And where are you now?
Well, I've been writing esoteric fiction and nonfiction since I was probably about 20. I had a small publisher publish some of my work. Most of it is based on mystical experiences and trying to understand them. Uh, always been drawn to the unknown. I want to know why things happen, what's behind things. Uh, I was always drawn to secret societies. I would join several from the back of magazines. I just wanted, find my own truth, you know.
Okay, you write that your books are about your own self-discovery and what you're learning and what you've learned along the way. You use it, you say that you like this process as a way of teaching yourself. Can you talk more about that a little bit?
Yeah. Okay. Whenever I find an idea or a quote, I research it. I want to experience it. Writing about it helps me bring it to focus, helps me draw things from my past, to have a personal experience with it. So when I write, it might sound like I know what I'm talking about. I'm actually exploring it, questioning it, working with it. And then my writing helps me make sense of it all. I like to share it, and some people share their stories about what they can relate about it, what it means to them. I don't write because I'm an expert in anything. I write to teach myself, and maybe others can learn in the process.
Well,
So,
now you had, a dear friend to both of us, but really a mentor to you, Iona Miller, and she told you that, writing your books, as you say, writing my books is what comes out of the personal dialogue with the divine and myself at my level. And so, what do you make of that?
so I start with silence, and I bring something out of it. Bring something out of the unknown. It's like facing a bunch of chaos, and creativity kind of compresses it, brings form to it. And then I have a book's a way of having a dialogue with myself and even something beyond myself. So she always said that was my dealing with my angel in a way. It's giving a voice to what needs to be heard, even if I'm not consciously aware. Because sometimes my ideas, I don't know where they come from.
Well,
They
now
pop into.
in going into that, you also equate some of that with the darkness, of each our own psyche. The part of ourselves we can't see, and you go into that. I mean, does that occupy a lot of your thoughts? Some of your thoughts? Is it in a lot of your writings?
Maybe some of them. I like to, especially one of my newest ones, the Halo on the
Okay.
Hope. It deals with archetypes, and I like to work through traumas and just to find my own shadow. Because I know even online, a lot of people do a lot of projection, and I'm trying to find my own issues and
Well, a
traumas.
wonderful quote from that book you write, in the Halo and Hollow is about making that darkness conscious. When I said I tried to heal my mother with my own little ritual or crystals, and my sister, my page folded. My sister did. I tried to heal my mother with my own little rituals or crystals, and my sister did the same. But she came to a realization and told me that I can't heal her. It was hard to hear that and face that reality, but it was true. Only we can dive to the root of our own issues and traumas and face them. No one else can do that for us. You know.
Yeah, we do our own work.
Hmm?
We do have to do our own work, and people can point out a problem, but it's us up to us to work it out. You know.
And so you even have to ask then, is a problem perceived by somebody else necessarily a problem or something that you have to go through?
That might be something that you're not aware of at
Yeah,
first.
I mean there is that, you know what I'm saying, but there is also, even though it may be unconscious, there's also that which we need to go through to work out issues that
Yeah,
might not be, on
especially if
top of our head.
especially if we don't want to. Eventually, we have to face it. We have to go through it.
Yeah. So, could you describe how you face some of that in your writing?
In even in my fiction, I even use real things, and in my nonfiction, I'll face the same experience or trauma and write about it over and over and over again until I find something I need to face, something I can finally put behind me, something that's not going to keep reappearing and cycling. You know, um, my writing helps me get to a place I want to be. You
Well, you
know,
also say that, when you talk about the mystical experience that I think goes into your writing, it's a way of drawing yourself to yourself. I try to give a voice to what is silent and an understanding of what is dark and formless. Yet the mystic lets his direct encounter envision this nothingness or creative potential and mold form from that substance, which you were just talking about.
and the Thunder Perfect Mind goes into a lot of that. She is the speech and the silence, and a lot of the some of the ancient Gnostic texts deal with the same thing. Especially this book, my other one,
Okay. And
deal with.
and what's going on in that book?
Well, it's about the art card, but it's more than that. Um, I deal with the speech from the silence. And I'm trying to find a quote. I was gonna read to you. Okay, this is from Thunder Perfect Mind. I am the unlearned, and they learn from me. So that's kind of what my writing. I'm unlearned, but I learn by writing, exploring, and people might learn from me. I would learn from them. It says, I am the one that you have despised, and you reflect upon me. I am the one whom you hidden from, but you appear to me. Though whenever you hide yourselves, I myself will appear, and from whenever you appear, I myself will hide from you. I love reflecting on these ancient texts and, writing about what it means to me and what it means to come from a place of silence because I'm not good at articulating. You know,
Okay.
I'm a writer, and writing can takes me to places I don't really get to verbally. So these ancient texts, they help me explore these ideas. And
So
maybe
does writing help you to say things that you can't say verbally?
it's
And why do you think that is?
that's a good question. Um, By getting judged,
Go ahead.
not having people understand it.
Uh-huh. So you don't feel that you could convey understanding verbally. It's not your talent. It's all it's all internal. So what you're constantly keeping is an internal dialogue and maybe several internal dialogues. You're managing internal dialogues. Um, do you see a schizophrenia in that?
No.
I do. I see a controlled schizophrenia, actually. That's what magic
No,
is, a controlled
no,
schizophrenia.
no. I
Huh?
think no, I think I am more on the Asperger side, to where I need to lean on a different talent writing where I have a deficit. It has nothing to do with schizophrenia.
Okay, that's a different insight. I was trying to get to magic to move, so maybe I was a little hasty in doing that. Um, so
But there's a fine line between madness and genius, but I think we all have to be a little mad.
yeah, well, and Asperger is a sign of genius, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, your genius has always been in your work. I've recognized it right from the first page I read. So of yours. So it's great to see what I have called the Rosicrucian novel, the Rosicrucian process, where the body of work begins to map the mind of the author.
Yeah, exactly.
And I see that coming up with you as well. Um,
I wrote something about a map. Says through the magic of words, we can get close to the hidden reality of life of which we are often unaware. It provides a mirror, a map, and in a way, a private ritual.
that puts a lot of value into the written word. Each word becomes potent that way.
Yeah.
You know, so I like that a lot. I think of Wittgenstein who tried to get past language, and all the people that attack language as obscuring us from the purity of our consciousness. But I think quite the opposite. It helps us to manifest the consciousness into the world.
Well, I have a quote about the written word.
Uh-huh.
Okay, it's just funny because you just mentioned that. It's like a synchronicity. If you have a question about the universe, you always have a few possibilities, in particular through language. The power of the word for me is the only way to get closer to this hidden reality. I can't say his name. It's Laszlo Krasna-Horkai. I'm not good with names. But I believe that. I use language and words to get close to things. That's how I view the world. That's how I connect to it. I think
Yeah,
a lot of
and I think you know. I've always spoken over the years about how we really think in pictures. We don't think in words, and that's why dreaming is more picture than word. But I think that words bring what comes through dreaming, words can bring into the world, into our lives. So there's an automatic magic, and any student of magic, must necessarily be a writer. I really believe that. Others may challenge me on that subject.
I agree with you.
Uh, but it is the key. So when you're putting word together, you're bringing a whole lot, into your life, and I think um, that's an experience worth ruminating over. Seeing your development. How would you relate the last, say, the last five books that you've written to the previous five books that you've written? How would you talk about that?
Some some are extensions of others. I'm not sure this is the last five, but when I originally wrote The Vault of Babylon, I wanted to write a book about Maya Tranchil Hayes. That one didn't work out. So I wrote a book about her, but some books are continuations of others. Um, the Art of Sacred Battle is about the art card. And this book is also, I had started this one and kind of put it aside, but I wanted to go to a different area. So some books branch off in a specific direction where I need to explore something more or something I didn't address. So some were just extensions of my previous work and finding a new direction to go from there.
Okay, so now you have two essential pseudonyms that you write under your name, Melissa Rovelli, and your motto, Source Hearings. Um, uh, can you talk about the difference in your thoughts on those two writing lines?
Yeah, I use Melissa Rovelli more for my fiction, but more for my mundane fiction. But I do have one on Dion Fortune. I like to keep my other name for my more spiritual work because that's
For
the name
so,
I
for, yeah, for
yeah.
Source Hearings. Now, you get some marvelous email on some of the stuff that Source Hearings publishes. Can you talk about some connections that you've made with some of your readers?
Yeah. Um, some of it, what they say touched me deeply. Um, I appreciate their insights, and especially if they can relate to something. Because when you write a book, even though some of the book is about me, I want others to see themselves in my words and find their own experiences and how it relates to them. I don't want to be about me. And I love when people can come to me and say that they see themselves in the words or they felt like the book was written for them or they identified with it. And it's really magical how that happens.
Well, I
And
think
that,
you're finding something then that must be common in, if not all of us, at least, more than several of us. So, what are the kinds of things that you've found in common with people on that?
that we're all human.
Say that again?
That we're all human. You know, we're
Yeah,
all,
of course that we're all human, but you're getting into, people's soul life, in your writing. And when somebody sends you an email saying that, you put me into this book, I think that's very profound. I'd love to know what you're touching in that person.
we're probably the same drive, the same desiring to find out uh, who you are, what your purpose is, to find meaning. You know, everybody's trying to answer the same basic questions and make sense of this world, to see beyond it. And I think
Well,
that we can see beyond it.
yeah, yeah, I'm just trying to hear that there. But you also say that it's impossible to put into words what we actually experience because
Yep,
who would believe us?
exactly. Because if I tell you I talk to an alien, you're going to think I'm schizophrenic. But
Especially me.
exactly.
See
That
that?
cruel, cruel, you know. And a lot of people, they've had experience with um, entities, beings. And it's hard to put that into words to try to get other people to understand what we've seen, what we felt, what we experienced, and what we got out of it.
So there's even though you can relate so much in your writing, there's experience yet that you can't really write about.
I didn't try, but I don't think. unless someone had a similar experience, they're not going to necessarily understand or see where I'm coming from or frame it the way it happened.
Well, you do bring
Mhm.
you do bring certain sensibilities in certain situations in your writings where I think you use words to say what words can't say. You get to that sensibility, you know. Um, I think I think that's what gets people. You know, I found in my own psychic readings, the more you know, I got into that sensibility kind of phase, the more I was talking to that person without myself necessarily knowing what I was telling them. You know, but
Yeah.
they saw themselves in that journey, and
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
that's something that you produce in your own writing. Um, Now, you've also have experience with being both Melissa Rovelli and Sarah Searings.
Mhm.
Uh, and you meet people online in these ways. With your own, you know, self promotion that helps you to sell your books, and yeah, and with say the trolls that we encounter, can you talk about some of this and what you're experiencing as a person whose light is growing in the world?
You mean about the trolls?
Whether about the trolls or about the good people that you've met or the meaning you take from the product you drive, the whole confluence of being a public character on social media.
Well, then it's hard when other people like your ex-girlfriend. Yeah, like when someone hates you without even knowing you and just wants to uh, make up stories and harm you, or even other people, and then someone else will they'll either they'll even if people know you and have good experiences with someone will who doesn't like you say something bad, everybody say, "Oh, yeah, well that must be true," or "I gotta hate her too," and even about my book covers, like George Dane didn't like my Vault Babylon cover, so he wouldn't tell me why. He said he'd tell you, but just tell me. I don't mind feedback, along with from most people, but he wouldn't tell me. And then I eventually did change it because one of my co-authors of another book suggested this other cover, and it's of a sensual woman, not necessarily sexual. But a woman in England complained that my cover was sexual because it was a woman and part of her breast shows. But I mean, women have breasts, and it's like, it doesn't necessarily mean it's sexual. It can't even be artistic. If someone's, people complain. If you're not sexual in Thelema, it's a problem. If you're too sexual, others don't like it. It's like no matter what you do, people don't like it. You can only do what you do, and either people are gonna like it or hate it, and you just gotta let it go where it goes. You know.
Well, yeah, there's a thick skin we all have to develop. I just kind of went here or took our discussion here only because your books, you know, are so personal to
Yeah.
you and yet personal to your readers too in a very interesting way. Um, and so your public persona through social media then melds all that. You know, it becomes more part of you than I think your non-readers, you know, can see, because your readers, I think, get you know, an interesting view into the character of your life, the caricature that we create for ourselves, you know, and you define yourself. So that's just, you know, a wonderful thing. So I like this line from you. The mystic lets his direct encounter envision this nothingness or creative potential and mold from that substance. It unifies his personal reality in order to transcend belief into personal knowledge. Can you talk about that for a minute as we fade out here?
No, it's just like they say, even a vacuum's not empty, and there's always a creative potential in us, even in darkness, because even seeds need to grow in darkness. And it's all about uh, finding that place inside you and making it grow, creating with it, building a vision, even when there is no vision, trying to give vision to a nothingness. That's what writers do. When I write my fiction books, I create imaginary worlds. And I find it interesting that some people don't have self dialogue. I talk to myself all day long, even out loud. And some people don't have that. I just don't understand that, or they can't see images. I've heard that people can see like the shape of an apple, but they can't see. I think to be a writer, you need to see. You need to feel in your words. You need to put all your senses in there to make it come alive. You have to when you're writing a paragraph, uh, you gotta see it and feel it. You gotta have all your senses, and while you're writing it, you gotta feel it and envision it. It's got to be real in your mind, and I think that's a gift.
It's the magic.
Yes, you can do a lot with that. You make your own inner worlds come alive. You can bring it out into the outer world. You can bring the outer world into you, and then keep it cycling.
Well, that's
And
absolutely fabulous. And I'm going to thank you publicly for doing this. You came in at a last minute replacement for somebody that canceled for on us last minute. So we did this very spontaneously, but ended up making a great podcast. So thanks for bravely stepping in and helping out.
and you do you.
Okay. We'll put all your links obviously below for the viewers in our congregational network. And thank you once again, and thank you everybody else for listening and being a part of the Gnostic Rebellion.
Are we done?
Oh,